Welcome back, folks, to another video recorded on an iPhone with horrible editing. Virtually no editing at all. We just do it live. And if you've been tuning in the past couple of weeks, you've kind of seen me go down a rabbit hole with cassettes, had my vintage stereo equipment repaired, which maybe I'll get into that in another video. But it sparked my interest in cassette tapes again. I don't know about you, but I was born in the late 80s and I grew up in the 90s and cassettes were still a thing. And I grew up recording on cassette tapes. Maxell 90 minutes type 2 were my favorite type of tapes. So I go to the thrift shop all the time and I picked this bad boy up. It's a late 90s, early 2000s Sony desktop cassette recorder, and it runs on AA batteries or a DC converter. It does not work because the belts were bad, and they wanted $6, and I talked them down to $3, which probably was still too much considering that it doesn't work. Sony full auto shutoff cue and review function, model number TCM 929. And I am low skills and don't know anything about ordering or measuring. I don't have the little measuring thing. The dry belts are usually what go bad on a tape player. They're rubber and they stretch out. And if they don't wear, they get flat spots and then sometimes they turn into complete mush. So I do not know how to measure my own belts. I'm sure I could save a lot of money if I knew how to do that. So then I was going on eBay and I was having to order belts that hopefully they had for the exact model or they pre-measured it for you. And this set of belts I had to order. They were online. They came from England, and with shipping and everything, it was like $12 for the belt kit for it. So I spent more for the belts than I did on the actual player, and I'm hoping this is what the problem is. We got our little pick here to remove the belt. I am not a pro. I am just a total amateur. I'm doing this by just figuring it out. My Phillips head, my flathead to pry apart the case, and we're going to see if we can get this thing up and running. I'm pretty sure it is just the belts because when you push play, the motor is running, but just nothing is happening. And I've already pulled it apart off camera once, and the belts were stretched. So that's what's wrong. If you saw my other video about my General Electric AM/FM alarm clock cassette player, that one I thought the belt was perish, but I think just because the motor hadn't ran the cassette player in a long time, I just kind of had to turn it a couple of times by hand, and then it's been working fine ever since. So we're gonna do our magic on this thing, see if we could replace the belts. I'll show you a couple of, I'm not gonna do a tutorial. This is just kind of like, will it run? Tune in and find out kind of a situation. And then we'll test out this Peter Gabriel cassette, which reminds me of the movie Say Anything, and as my buddy Jonathan's cousin Stabber calls him, Peter Gabriel, although he's not looking too hot these days. So hang on a minute, folks, while I stop the camera and we'll cut into when I take it all apart. Okay, we've split the case in half. The motor is right here and the flywheel, and then there's the take-up reel, and then the capstan is up there somewhere. It's a mono speaker. So we're gonna have to move this and then we'll feed it all around and see if that works. Here's the belt kit. You could see they came from the UK, a British company, Tech Deck, replacement part specialist for Sony TCM 929, 2 belts. So we got our belts there. The little one goes from there to there and the big one goes to drive the capstan up there. Now we're really going to try and pull this circuit board back, which I can't do one-handed, and we'll see if we can do it. Okay, it's been about 5 minutes. That was not easy trying to wrestle belts onto pulleys with this little pick here. This little dental style pick really was helpful. This thing runs on 4 AA batteries. So we're putting the batteries in now. And you guys get to see with me as we do it if this solves the issues that this thing was having and it wasn't playing, and you can hear the motor running. Let's get our, okay, pretty sure I cleaned the heads on this when I first got it, so let's put our tape in. I cannot tell if that's, yeah, it seems to be working. No sound though. Bummer. So there was other issues with this thing is basically what it's coming down to. Okay, so I figured out what was wrong. This volume control knob right here has to align with the switch on the circuit board, and when I lifted the circuit board up to put the belt on, it wasn't lined up. So now it's set to the switch, and it should work. Yeah. That sounds terrible. Okay, we got to do some more investigation. Okay, I've had this thing apart for the third time now. First time to replace the belts. Second time to set the volume control sensor back with the switch on the circuit board. And now the third time I took it apart and the drive belt had slipped off the pulley and had grabbed onto the top little nub part that's on the very top. So I used my little curette tool here and reset it. So now the belt is sitting in the channel on the pulley and the clutch wheel or flywheel, or whatever they call it. I am not an expert, folks, and it shows. I've been working on this thing for 20 minutes for a simple belt replacement. But you know what? You got to have a hobby. This is the volume all the way up. This thing is not a show off with mono speaker sound. The sound, it sounds right though. Okay, that's definitely right. Let's test out the record feature. Let me get a blank tape. Okay, I've been going to the thrift shop and buying as many rewritable cassette tapes as I can. I like these 80s Maxell tapes. This one's just type 1. Normally I like type 2. But let's test the record feature on this bad boy. It's got a little microphone right there. This is a test on October 12th, 2021 for the record and playback of the Sony TCM 929 cassette recorder. Okay. Terrible. We'll have to look into that, but I can hear myself only very faintly. Okay, I've taken it apart again and cleaned it with electrical contact cleaner. I pulled the microphone out, blew it all out, cleaned the solder with the contact cleaner, cleaned the points where it connects on the board. Now let's test it out. I already pre-recorded a message. Clean the volume switch as well.
Test 1, 2, 3. Test 1, 2, 3 for the internal microphone. We know the external works okay, but we're having a problem with the internal.
Yeah! Great success, everybody, and that's a video. Until next time, we'll see you then.